Welcome back, travelers. Today we'll be talking about the Powerpuff Girls. Now, don't click off just yet. You see, the thing is that somebody, a few months ago actually, asked, I believe it was Carol, she asked me to create basically do a color coding of these characters, the Powerpuff Girls. And as a result, after going through them and kind of looking over the characters, I decided, okay, you know what, I can do this. This is going to be something we're going to do. We're going to see how it goes. Let's just jump into it. We're going to talk about five primary characters really of the Powerpuff Girls. We got Professor Utonium, in the order, Professor Utonium, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, and of course, Mojo Jojo. So we're going to look at these characters, different character traits, and just kind of shove them into one of the colors. Possibly two if they feel like they fit there. So a great example of that will be our first person, Professor Utonium. All these characters I'm referring to the original series. We're not talking about the modern day series or the anime thing that they did. Instead, I'm just talking about what we initially got with McCracken, okay? So, Professor Utonium, he's a scientist. He has, it's described early on that when he was a young boy, he had no interest in science, he had no interest in anything. He was basically just a brat, right? But eventually, something happens in the past. These three perfect little girls appear, they save him, and then they go back to their original time, which obviously is the Powerpuff Girls. The thing is that this sets Professor Utonium on a quest, basically, to become an inventor, become a scientist, to do something. He's kind of obsessed with this idea of creation, of making something that can be considered perfect. Now, you may have heard several key terms there that may or may not lead him towards a particular color, such as perfection or obsession. Those are both blue. He's very blue. He's a scientist. Scientists tend to be blue. But he also is not a really good scientist. You see, the thing about Professor Utonium is that he's actually kind of clumsy, kind of careless. He'll often build things, create things, and yeah, good job. Usually whenever he creates something that is truly amazing or powerful or great or perfect, it's because he accidentally added another thing to the concoction. Wakanda forever. So basically, the Powerpuff Girls were invented by him, not because he was specifically aiming to create superpowered beings. It's because he was trying to create the perfect little girls so that he could have children, right? Which you would think could be blue-green, but the fact that he's doing it basically because has no sense. Creating life is not the kind of thing that scientists should be trying to do on a regular basis, and the fact that this is like one of his pet projects means that somebody probably should have stopped him at some point, otherwise he could have created a monster, like a monkey with a giant brain or something. I don't know. I find Professor Utonium to be very blue-red. Red to the max because of his carelessness, of he's very emotional. He's cried on several episodes, and he cares deeply for his family. And there was that one time he got seduced by Sedusa. So I'd say that was a pretty good indicator of his redness right there. If he had been truly blue, he would have been like, nope, that's a bad idea. So looking at the character from those perspectives, he is blue-red. And I think that's a good spot to have. I was originally going to put him blue-green, but I feel like he is much more chaotic than that, and much less methodical than blue-green would be. Initially, I had Blossom as monocolored, but as I continued to go through her character and kind of look at the stuff that she does, I came to a conclusion. So let's just look at that and try to parse how that works out. So initially, Blossom is the leader. She's the leader of the bunch. You know her well. She's finally back to kick some tail. The idea is that Blossom is this, she's the compass, the moral compass for the team. She knows what she wants to do, and she's going to protect people. And when Buttercup gets too excitable or Bubbles gets too scared, Blossom is there to kind of pull the team back together and lead them to victory. Now, one thing that I did notice is that she can get arrogant, she can get self-righteous, she can get to the point where she thinks that her way is the only way, and she'll use that as an excuse basically to do things she shouldn't do. A good example of that is that she, I believe she started breaking Mojo Jojo out of prison simply so that they could catch him and throw him back in prison and get rewarded for it. There was also an instance where she would continuously steal golf clubs from this place so that Professor Utonium could have them. So Blossom has had moments where she's not exactly doing what's morally right, and she does it because she feels like it's something that she should do. She wants to do these things. She wants to get reward. She wants her father's approval. She wants those things. She's driven by those emotions. In addition, she also has been shown to have special abilities that the other ones don't have. Yeah, they all have their own unique traits, but as opposed to just shooting laser eyes, she also has the ability to use her frost breath. And I believe at one point she also gets fire breath. So fire breathing and ice breathing both fall into Red's camp, while her leadership and moral compass lead her to white. So I would consider her to be white-red, considering the fact that she fits all of these different traits pretty well. She's also got a thing called the danger sense, I think, and she's got the ability to basically have lightning fast reflexes the other ones don't have. She has a thing called pink lightning, which once again, lightning very much leans towards the red side of the spectrum. Bubbles is very interesting. You see, Bubbles is kind of like the youngest sister. I know they're triplets, but the idea is that she's kind of the younger one mentally than the other ones. And she's more bubbly and the joy and the laughter and the such. But I would see her as being very green more than anything else. Now the reason is primarily she can talk to animals. She has the ability to just basically reach out and talk to a squirrel if she feels like it. She can like cheep 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 at it and it'll understand what she's saying. Birds and all that stuff. She has the ability to understand them, and communicate with them. So in addition to that, she also, of course, is the most, I'd say, in tune with the people around her and the way things are, and she's very empathetic. I think there was a moment where she took on Mojo Jojo's role. So Bubbles has been kind of like the most, like I said, the bubbliest, the happiest, and all that stuff. But she also is the one where if you do anything to her that like threatens the way things are supposed to be, for instance, stealing her octopus, she will savagely destroy you without a moment's notice. She has the least qualms about just thrashing people beyond recognition. She has nearly killed Mojo Jojo several times and is the one that is most likely to do those things. Very animalistic. She'll hunt you down and she will destroy you. Like I said, she will kill you. She is terrifying. I believe Mojo Jojo is actually afraid of her, and if the other three aren't there, he doesn't want to deal with her because of the fact that without the other two to rein her in, she could just go ballistic on him. Bubbles was very simple as to color code. I'd probably say green-white, honestly, because she is very focused on the community. But if I had to give her two colors, it would be green-white. Buttercup! Buttercup is literally just the kind of character. She just wants to get in a fight. She's not like Bubbles, who does it out of a sense of like destroy. She's more Buttercup is like, I want to get in a scrap. And for that, I would consider her much more on the red side of things. She's very in tune with what she wants. She's very outspoken. She's very likely to just kind of go out and do her thing. I believe one of her abilities is actually the ability to just like rub her stubs together and shoot a fireball. That seems pretty red. Fireballs tend to be red. She also, I believe, has the ability to turn into tornadoes or a hurricane or something like that, which I would put into the green category. So for her, I would say she is most likely red-green. As far as the other things she does, she is the one that is most likely to... She actually left, I believe, to go to be with the Green Gang, and because she liked the main guy from the Gorillas, and they wound up together, actually, basically, and she was very easily manipulated because of her emotions, which would fit into a red-green character very easily. She does care deeply for her family and her friends, and now I'm saying the colors because initially I did not have Bubbles as green-white. I just had her as mono green, but thinking about her character-wise, she does fit the white. We have red-white, green-white, and red-green, and so you have all three colors that all three color combinations that kind of fit into that that color combination, and that's interesting. I wonder if that's not necessarily intentional to make it the magic colors, but intentional character-wise to make them mesh well together and support each other in that way, so they each have something in common with the other. to connect them to each other. That's interesting. The three colors most likely to protect something is red, green, and white. Because red wants to protect something that it loves, green wants to protect something because it believes it should exist, and white wants to protect something because it's right. So it makes sense that these three characters who are superheroes in their own right, they fit into that mold of a character who wants to do those things for those reasons. Mojo Jojo is very interesting in the fact that he kind of, depending on what the story needs him to be, he can be those things. He can be the whatever kind of villain they need him to be. He can be extremely goofy. He can be extremely evil. And because of that, I've found it hard to pin a color really on him. If anything, I would say that because they tried to paint him as very selfish, that I would put him in the black category just for that reason. Because he's selfish, arrogant, and he thinks he's brilliant, and he just wants to win. And those are all very much they can be black traits. The problem is that he has at points been green with the way he can. They believe in the movie he became Mojo, where he's just like this huge giant gorilla monster thing, and Gorilla Smash is very green. But he's also shown a very soft side, which I wouldn't necessarily put him in red because of that. But there is a precedent for characters that show emotion to be red. But as a whole, I kind of got rid of that one. White, super easy to get rid of. And then that leaves blue. He's very smart, but being very smart does not mean you are blue. So if anything, I would consider him to just be mono black, because all the other colors don't have a strong enough pull on his character. You could write off the green aspect as just being him wanting more power, and you could write off the blue aspect as him just wanting to gain more knowledge. If I had to give him a second color, it would probably be black-blue, which puts him at a very good contrast. Together they create their own kind of ecosystem. Yeah, I could include other characters like Fuzzy Lumpkins, who's just basically green. I could include the princess with the gold everywhere. I don't remember her name, but she'd be mono black, obviously. Him would probably be red-black. Not necessarily because of the colors, but you get the idea. All these different characters, they all have their own personality traits, and they're all very well developed, and that was the main reason I was able to make a video on them, because they have so much evidence and variety to the characters. They're not Peppa Pig. So if you guys have anything in particular that you would like to say about this video, like if you have any qualms, if you want to correct anything I said, if you want to propose a different color for them, other than the colors of the shirts, which doesn't really match up with them, except for, actually it does. It matches up for Blossom and Buttercup pretty well. But you get the idea. If you have anything to say, you can just put it in the comments. I will look at it. If you guys have any other characters you want me to try to do this with, that you think might be a challenge, like Mojo Jojo, then I'd be up for it. I'm excited to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until then, travel well.